So Matt Hancock has been caught on CCTV getting frisky with one of the aides that he appointed to a top position in part of something in the NHS. It was some kind of governmental body. A woman called Gina Colangelo, and this is the health secretary, obviously, who is married with kids, got caught on camera doing this, which isn't great. It's not the best look, really, for a party so concerned with social conservatism to be seen to be cheapening the institution of marriage somewhat by doing such a thing. It's not a great look, although it is very infuriating to see a man with a hairline like this having the hot girl summer that I'm not having right now, which is very tilting and very frustrating. But I know, right? That Ask Rabbit. It's quite something, isn't it? Although. So, this woman was appointed to a ministerial position. Was it a ministerial position? Let me just have a look. Let me read the article. Yeah, so they were university friends and got a government job in unclear circumstances, and now it seems they had a personal relationship. Now, this woman, I think the position that she was appointed to was a position where you work 20 days a year and get paid 15k, considering that's only 5k less than what I earn at my 40 hours a week job. That's a little bit of a piss take, just because you happen to know someone in government and he happens to want to get in your pants, that you can just walk into a job that just pays for a regular standard, a working class standard of living, and whilst also working 3 weeks in the year, right? That's pretty pathetic already. But, him getting embarrassed like this is also kind of funny. I think it's pretty amusing. But anyway, if we just go back into the article, so this was done, obviously it's technically during a pandemic where we have certain guidance lines about what we should or shouldn't be doing. Now, these were taken on May the 6th, when England's laws banned indoor social gatherings of people from different households, which they are, and guidance urged people to stay 2 meters apart and avoid face-to-face contact. Now, them getting frisky with each other, it's against the guidelines, but that's not technically in breach of the law, just as it is, right? Because the question is, should they be mixing in the same place at that point? Which I think their line was, those said, it's understood Matt Hancock believes no COVID laws were broken because he and Mrs. Colangelo were in the health department for legitimate work purposes. I don't know about anybody else, but this right here, this doesn't look like legitimate work purposes to me. This looks like, legitimate purposes nonetheless. Depends on how you call, and on how one might contextualise extramarital affairs as being legitimate. But even if they say for example, 9 of them are married or whatever, and they were just getting it on in the storeroom or whatever this is, fine. That's admirable, if anything. If they weren't cheating on their relevant spouses, obviously that's bad. But when you are the health secretary, right, and you are the person who's essentially the person with which the laws can be drawn back to about what we should or shouldn't be doing, or what we aren't even allowed to do during COVID time, this isn't work purposes. This is as far as I'm concerned, this is in contravention of his law. At least, even if it's not by the letter of the law in contravention of it, it is at the very least, in contrary to the spirit of the laws as they've been produced, right? They are clearly not here for work purposes. They are clearly doing it to be able to get into each other's pants, right? So that's that. Even if you can find a way to make it so it's not breaking the law, the fact that we've all had to stay home whilst these people can do this, and they can go over to Ascot and they can have millions of people in Wembley Stadium, right? Apparently that's good enough for them. But we have to stay indoors. I've not had what Matt Hancock's been having for over a year. I don't think that's fair. How is it that Matt Hancock is getting busy and I'm not? Before you say your own face no justice, I know, first of all. But second of all, come on, it's Matt Hancock. The guy running away from the news camera, which was hilarious. But yeah, the number 10 refused 8 times to comment on whether the health secretary broke the law. Me too, Pogo, me too. Point 1, did he break the ministerial code though? In point 1 on point 2 of the ministerial code says working relationships, including with civil servants as ministerial and parliamentary colleagues and parliamentary staff, should be proper and appropriate. was replacing hands, face, taste with hands, lips, and arse the definition of an appropriate relationship? I'll leave that for you to judge. Okay. And point 7.1 says ministers must ensure that no conflict arises or could reasonably be perceived to arise between their public duties and their private interests, financial or otherwise. And I think this is a pretty clear conflict. Just some random mate of his being thrust into a very, very high-paying, low-work sinecure, and then being used as some kind of ulterior motive for him to get into her pants, right? That doesn't seem like some kind of... That seems like a reasonable conflict, reasonably perceived to be... It's reasonable to perceive that a conflict has arisen between the interests of making sure that our particular departments that have to deal with health are staffed by people who should be there based on the merits or their own particular skill set, not the admirable skill set of being somebody who Matt Hancock knows. But then again, as we've already seen throughout the vast majority of the pandemic, just being mates with members of the Tory party is enough to get you plenty of money or plenty of top jobs. Or if you're a lobbyist for someone that they know, they'll give you a particular contract. It's all sleazy at the end of the day, but nobody cares, so I'm not going to wallow on that too long. We all know that the Tories are completely corrupt and just want to funnel public money to their mates, or use the power that they wield in Parliament to be able to protect themselves from lying, or to be able to siphon off public money into the pockets of the people who they represent. That's just child's play at this point, because no one actually cares. It's not affected the polling. Like, whatever, at this point, it's it's water under the bridge. Whereas something that is a little bit more saucy like this might actually catch people's attention, although I don't think that it will. Let me just turn the volume down on my phone. They're university friends, got a government job in unclear circumstances. Well, I think it's pretty clear circumstances from where I'm sitting, but then again, I am filling some gaps here. And then there's just a bunch of stuff about people being whether they should be sacked, but I don't think there's much of an issue really. I mean, nepotism in UK politics is awful. It's super, super bad. I mean, the Tories are obviously really bad for it, because I don't know if you've seen or if the news has kind of carried over into other parts of the world, but there was loads of scandals that were going on because people who were given contracts by the government, so private companies given private issue contracts, were given to the people who own companies who just happen to be very, very linked to members of the Tory party or Tory lords or Tory aides or lobbyists who've donated money to the Tory party. So so there should be a bargaining process for who gets these government contracts. I mean, I think they should be done internally, but no, that's just me. But there should be a bargaining process for this, right, where the government judges these companies based on their relative merits as towards delivering the actual contract itself, right? Delivering the proceeds of that contract should be fulfilling. But instead of it being done through that, they've just fast-tracked a bunch of their cronies through. Some people who've not even had any kind of training in making PPE. Like Priti Patel was like £70,000 of public money to some beauty company, probably to do her own brows or something. But this happens again. It's not even through the pandemic as well. There was Chris Grayling, who did a big contract for ferries to a company who owned zero ferries just because they happened to have links to the Conservative Party. I mean, not to say that the Labour Party is too much better, but I mean, obviously there's pretty insular as a particular political party with the Fabians and all that kind of malarkey, but it's not quite as bad with regards to siphoning off public money in the same way that the Conservative Party is. It's less kind of elite circles and more just a bunch of politicians who either have their own vested interests in their own companies or have been bought off by other people. It's very in similar kind of way that you get over in the United States, I guess. So obviously, Prime Minister is stubbornly refusing to fire his health secretary, and his own past contact may long go into explaining why. So yeah, it would be kind of hypocritical a little bit if Boris Johnson was to sack Matt Hancock over infidelity, considering this was the guy who cheated on his pregnant wife. Was it a pregnant wife, or was it wife was in cancer treatment? I don't know. It was some bad shit. Anyway, yeah, like it would be completely hypocritical for him to fire Matt Hancock over something similar. Obviously, this is coming in the wake of the Cummings revelations that happened a few weeks ago, where he basically entirely listed Matt Hancock as one of the people who is most to blame for the amount of people who died during the pandemic over here. So that is what it is. And then we have the ex-AIDS War and Health Secretary, which has included revealing text showed that PM thought him hopeless and has only strengthened Mr Johnson's support for his minister. Interesting. Oh. Just bear with us one sec. I need to change the volume on my phone. There we go, that's better. I'm going to have to cut a load of this out of the segment that I clipped from my YouTube channel here, because I've just had so much dead air to get things sorted. How did Gina Colangelo get a government job? Mina lobbyist Gina Colangelo was first handed an unpaid advisor job in the Department of Health last year, for a period of 6 months as understood. A $15,000 a year role as a non-executive director of the Department of Health, sitting on its board with such luminaries as Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty. How exactly she got this job is shrouded in mystery. Insists this appointment was made in the usual way and followed correct procedure, but does not elaborate on what this procedure was. I'm sure people who went to university with Matt Hancock are very, very, very well qualified to be part of the Department of Health. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Pretty sure. Yeah. Bunch of things about that anyway. So I think I've got some videos of people having a chat about it, so let me pull these up.
I also wanted to ask you about...
Let me pause this Fallout music for a sec.
Story on the front page of The Sun today. They're saying that Matt Hancock is having an affair with one of his closest aides, showing a photograph of him in a clinch. Do you think his political future is in doubt?
Well, I think there has been for a long time a complete difference between what people do in their job and how they do their job, which is what everybody should be judged for, and what they do in their personal lives. And I have no intention of commenting on any other colleagues or anyone else's personal life. That's for them and their themselves.
This is not purely a private matter, is it? Because the woman in question her appointment had many questions raised about it, that Matt Hancock was said to have secretly appointed her to his department as an unpaid advisor on a 6-month contract in March last year, which meant there are criticisms of a chumocracy.
Well, I'm not aware of that. The only thing I know is that if you are appointed to a government position, I think in this case it's a non-executive director position.
Well, that's her job now, not the original job,
Right. As I say, the only thing I can tell you is from my own experience in government, which is there are very rigorous programs in place when people are appointed, which requires all sorts of civil service.
What is this aspect ratio? Jesus.
Sign off before public money is spent, and that's the situation that I'm sure will be followed in a position like this.
See, it's always the same. It's always the same responses that you get. It's always just. Well, this bad thing really happened. You're like, well, I'm not aware of that, but we have things in place that means this shouldn't really happen. I'm like, yeah, we know it shouldn't happen. Why does it keep happening? Stop saying that you don't know what's happening when it's very, very obvious in this particular case that he's just that Matt Hancock's just appointed somebody that he knows and wants to bone into a really important government position. Like, don't pull the wool over our eyes, mate. Then I guess it's all been hyper-normalised to fuck at this point. So, we expect politicians just to completely lie about all of their positions at this point. So what does it even matter if you even try and hold them to account? Like, what does it really matter at this point? Let me just have a look and see if we've got something else here. Oh, this is interesting. I've not seen this bit yet. Let me just have a look at this particular one we've got here.
Let's return to that story of the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock. You remember he's been pictured embracing an aide and breaking those social distancing rules of the time that was back in early May. We're going to go over to Mark Kleinman now, who's got some breaking news on this, and it involves, Mark is on the phone with us. Mark, it involves Gina Coladangelo's brother and a string of NHS contracts, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. What I can reveal today is that a relative, in fact, the brother of the Whitehall director, alleged to have had an extramarital affair with Mr. Hancock, is an executive at a private healthcare company which has won a string of NHS contracts. Now, Roberto Coladangelo, who I understand is Gina Coladangelo's brother, is the executive director of strategy and innovation at Partnering Health Limited, or PHL Group, which specialises in the provision of urgent and primary care services to NHS patients. Now, there's no suggestion that
What's the name of that company again? Let me find out.
Coladangelo, who I understand is Gina Coladangelo's brother, is the Executive Director of Strategy and Innovation at Partnering.
Strategy and Innovation. Is that a name of a department, or is that a name of the company that he works for?
Health Limited, or PHL Group, which specialises in the provision of urgent and primary care services to NHS patients. Now, there's no...
Let me just have a look. Oh wow! Literally, the first result is this woman's brother. Let's have a look here. Executive for Strategy Innovation and PHL. Right. Let's have a look at PHL. PHL Forklifts. PHL Group Healthcare Limited. Health company providing service and quality solutions to the NHS and private healthcare partners. Oh, so there's another one which are there. Public contracted healthcare providers in the UK, I think. And in Hampshire. And this is the guy who is the brother of the one who got afforded the lucrative NHS health position, just so that Matt Hancock could bone her.
Suggestion that PHL Group or Mr. Coladangelo has acted improperly in the procurement of government contracts. PHL is declining to comment so far on further details of those contracts, while the Department of Health and Social Care has been approached for comment. Nevertheless, this disclosure will risk deepening the crisis engulfing Mr. Hancock today. He's already been left weakened, of course, after allegations about his competence at tackling the COVID-19 pandemic that have been made in recent weeks by Dominic Cummings, Boris Johnson's former top advisor. As we know, Mr. Hancock said earlier today that he had let people down and was very sorry, with the Prime Minister saying he considered the matter closed. But it may be the case that the disclosure of Mr. Coladangelo's company's relationship with the NHS does make it more difficult for the health sector and, in fact, the government to shut this story down.
Yeah, like, it doesn't seem like they've got really any kind of argument against anything that's happening here. Like, there's the woman who Matt Hancock knew at university who's been put in this position, who also happens to be the sister of the guy who also has a very lucrative contract for the Department of Health. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm getting a little tinfoil hatty, but it seems like a pretty foregone conclusion at this point, considering the actual evidence that we have of lobbyists and people who are just hangers on to the Conservative Party also getting lucrative contracts during the pandemic. I don't think it's a massive leap to suggest that it is just clear nepotism at this point. Let me just double check, see if there's anything coming up on YouTube News we can watch about this. This one's 13 minutes ago. Let's see what's the details. Why it's saying.
Minister, do you still have confidence in the Health Secretary after he admitted breaking the rules today?
So the Secretary of State has apologised, and he said everything that he needs to say on the matter, and the Prime Minister has full confidence in the Secretary of State. He says the matter closed. He has a big job to do.
Do you have full confidence?
I have every confidence in Matt Hancock.
He
has apologised. He is, as I said, I've said everything I'm going to say on it. He's apologised, and he's focusing on making sure that we get this big sprint, up to the 19th of July to get everyone vaccinated. Protection with the two doses.
No, Nadine, you're the vaccines minister. That's your job. Matt Hancock is supposed to be the one organising literally everything else. You are the vaccines minister. Stop trying to obfuscate the actual point here and just avoid answering the questions about what's happened. Oh, he's apologised. Well, that doesn't make it okay that, it's you've broken ministerial code, possibly even broken the regulations that you set up as the health secretary. This is preposterous.
Does it make it harder for the public to follow rules when the Health Secretary?
Well, as I said, the Secretary of State has apologised and said everything he needs to say, and the Prime Minister has full confidence in his Secretary of State and considers the matter closed. Thank you very much.
He has admitted, though.
Thank you very much.
He's admitted that he broke the rules. That everyone else was expected to adhere to. If you were in that position, would you consider your position? Would you resign?
I think the Secretary of State has said everything he needs to say on this. He's apologised, and the Prime Minister is...
So it's yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Cosbox. I think the problem I have as well is that you can see from every time you get interviews with members of the Conservative Party, every time you hear them on any kind of interview in any kind of forward-facing position, they just have these pre-prepared dialogue trees they go down every single time. It's just, here's this phrase. I guess politicians of all kind of political parties would do this, but it's specifically happening at this point in time. You remember that footage there was of just at when Boris Johnson first did his cabinet back in 2019. I was like, what are our plans on? Got them chanting these answers, like these pre-prepared, like army sergeant drills, trying to get them to repeat all of their policy proposals and all of the things they were allegedly going to do, just like repeating them verbatim. It's clear that's what happens. They've just been, whenever anything like this breaks, they just have these internal meetings. They say you have to say this exact phrase every single time. Like, remember when Strong and Stable, Magic Money Tree, they got these spin doctors that have these pre-programmed phrases. So at any time anything untoward happens, like in this case, they'll just say he's apologised and he's taken on board everything that was said, and they just no matter what question you're asked, you just repeat this verbatim and ad nauseum. Because then they'll just get bored and you can avoid answering any of the actual difficult questions.
Consider the matter closed. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I've got a big job to do with the Mayor of London
what message does it send to the public? If ministers are able to do what they want to do and break the rules.
Well, I will repeat what I've just said. The Secretary of State has apologised.
Exactly. Just repeat. All they do is repeat. Do these politicians receive punishment or something? No. Like, fuck they will. They'll just continue siphoning off public money into their mates' pockets and receive no. And the public don't even hold them to bloody account. It's like, what you say? I was just a little bit of a thing. I was a bit of a chancer. Like, your elected representatives, your taxes pay these people's salaries and also pay the salaries of their mates who they've brought in. It's like, it's taxpayers' money. Like, suddenly there's a magic money tree. Like, when we want to be able to fund private contracts for mates of the Conservative Party. But as soon as we want free school meals for kids, suddenly it's like, oh, well, we just no magic money tree. We can't have, we don't have money for everything. And like, clearly you fucking do. And we pay for it with our taxes. Like, and especially these people's salaries who are supposed to be our public representatives, and they receive literally zero punishment or zero. There's no barely any contrition as well. Like, there's like performative levels of apology, but no actual substantive change happens moving forward. It's crazy.
Said everything that he needs to say on the matter, and the Prime Minister considers the matter closed. Thank you very much indeed.
And then as soon as they think and as soon as they want it to be done, they just like shut up and leave. Like, David Cameron was famous for it. When they say, I have every confidence, the entity. True. Us plebs break the rules, fines in jail. These politicians break the rules. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it because I was caught. I mean, imagine how many times they've broken ministerial code, broken COVID like rules and all that kind of stuff. Imagine how many times they've done that and we've not caught them. Like, I guess there's plenty of people in like members of the public who've done that, but when these people get caught doing this, how are you supposed to blame members of the public? How are you supposed to blame them when their elected representatives just do the exact same thing? Like, how are you supposed to how in what way are you supposed to be able to blame them? I have every confidence in Hancock, but now it's my wife.